Week 4 is here, and so are we. Welcome into episode 4 of the DFS Dudes, the podcast where we're giving all your DFS advice for this week. We are your hosts, Sam Corcoran, Jake Hart, Julian Sherman. Bit of an early start today, or late, considering that we didn't do it Tuesday. We're doing this on a Thursday morning, 11:15 on the East Coast, 8 on the West Coast. Guys, how are you doing?
Doing great. I got a lot of lineups, and I'm much more excited than last week. The slate looks a lot more juicy.
Yeah, sorry, my camera's not working, but I'm super excited for this week. Last week was all right, and I agree with Jake. I think this slate's pretty darn good, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good slate this week, unlike last week where, guys, honestly, I don't even want to do a recap. Let's just say, we did terrible last week. I didn't make any money. The consensus didn't make any money. It was a bad week.
Julian was the only one who won anything, and that's because I don't play a lot of cash. So
yeah,
I based just my cash. The reason I won is because of my cash, basically.
Yeah. Overall, it was just a brutal week for everyone. Let's just forget that. Let's have a better week this week, and let's go through the lineup. And starting off with quarterback, there's a lot of guys out here that I really like for this week, and I'll start with one guy. We've started him before, 5,900 Jared Goff going up against the Seahawks defense, which by all means is not the best defense, against the Lions offense that's been doing really well so far. I think a lot of people are forgetting that the Lions offense has started to they're 1-2, but their offense has looked insane this year. I think Jared Goff could be a great play this week. I mean, if you really want to go high end, I would not mind a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. That game should be a shootout, in my opinion. I'd probably go Allen $100 more against a worse D. Probably going to score more points. That's going to be an expensive stack, though, with him and either Diggs or Davis or someone like that. But I think if you want to play the budget play, if you want to go low, which we have been going low on quarterback recently, I think Jared Goff's the move for this week.
I kind of disagree. Well, I guess we need to wait and see with how the injuries roll out. But you're talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift likely being out, both of them. So if those two are out, you got DJ Chark as your number one, and then I think Josh
Williams is a solid back.
Yeah, but he doesn't catch the ball that much.
But he's not the same receiving. I mean, we're talking about Jared Goff here. Like, how is he going to get points? He's not the same dynamic presence on dump offs as DeAndre Swift is. We've seen a lot of Williams just run it in. He's gotten basically all the carries inside the 10. So now you're taking away that more satellite-like option. So I think there's other pivot options from Goff at 5.9, like especially if you're talking even way lower. I like Zach Wilson this week. I think is one of my favorite plays. 5.2. He's an easy stack with really cheap receivers that we've seen be good, like Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, and Elijah Moore, all really cheap stack options. And you run it back against a bad Pittsburgh team and a bad Pittsburgh defense for fantasy purposes. So I like that play. And then if you want up, I do like Josh Allen. I think there's ways to get away from that expensive stack with Diggs. And then the last one is Russell Wilson, not Zach Wilson.
Really?
He's so high priced and he's been playing really badly. So I think he's going to be really low owned, but he's playing a horrific Raiders defense. And again, the stack options are not expensive with Judy at 5.5 and Sutton at 6.4. So I think this could be the week to jump on that train and get a really nice triple stack where you could just bet on them finally breaking through and scoring 30 points.
Yeah,
definitely a risky play right there.
Jerry Judy and Courtland Sutton, but I don't really like, pairing them with their quarterback. And so it's kind of weird to say that because if you do like the wide receivers, you probably like the quarterback. But I do agree with you in playing Judy and Sutton, but I'm probably not going to put in Russell Wilson. But I mean, you can really if you believe that that's going to happen, which completely could, especially if Derek Carr does well, and then they're going to be passing the ball a lot for sure. But for me, I like the lower owned, or not low priced quarterbacks right now. There's the one high priced quarterback that I do like is Josh Allen. and I think he's has a 8,400. He's the highest priced quarterback on the slate. He's just so stupid good. But for me, I think it's kind of gross what I'm gonna say because all of the 3 top quarterbacks that I like are all under 5,700.
Oh boy, let's hear it.
I like Marcus Mariota, Daniel Jones, and Geno Smith. And I think the thing with it's hard. Marcus Mariota, the rushing upside is there. I think Cleveland defense, I don't really care. Defense matters and it doesn't matter. And I think for him, 17 points, 16 points, 20 points, obviously, it's a very small sample size, but he has a high floor. You compare him with Olave, Pitts, he's had a crappy year, but last game he was actually pretty darn good. Who's their rookie wide receiver? Is it Olave or who do they have again?
Yeah, for the Saints or
no, for the Falcons. What's his name?
Oh again? No, Drake London.
London. All right, yeah, sorry, Drake London, not Olave. He's a solid deep threat, and I think Marcus Mariota is going to be low owned and kind of gross. And Daniel Jones and Geno Smith at 5,400. Daniel Jones, I don't know. It's hard to see a lot of upside with Daniel Jones, but I do think he has some with his rushing ability going against the Chicago defense that isn't great. And I think people are worried that, Saquon's going to take a lot of the points, but they dump it off to Saquon all the time. And it's like a 2-yard pass, and he goes for like 30 yards because he's just so stupid good. And Geno Smith is like, it's rough to play Geno, but he's in a dome. He's going against Detroit. He's got weapons that you can pair him with DK Metcalf. It's easy to stack them. So I would say Geno Smith. I wouldn't do Geno Smith with both Lockett and Metcalf. I just don't think they both hit value. I think I would just go with one of them and be like, I think I'm going to go with Metcalf. I think I'm going to go with Lockett. I prefer Lockett a little bit due to the pricing. But those are my top 3 kind of gross quarterbacks. And I do like Derek Carr. And if I were to pay up, I'm going Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I think the way I was just gonna say the way my lineup's shaping up, I do have enough to go with an Allen Diggs stack. I might have to adjust down to an Allen Gabe Davis stack, something like that, because that's almost $1,700 of your $50,000 salary. So it is a lot, but
I just want to talk about Daniel Jones for a second. The thing that makes me, first of all, personal bias. I had a 6-player prop for Monday Night Football, and all he needed on the last drive was 6 yards, and he threw an interception. So I'm just not playing him. But also, you saw Sterling Shepard go down, and he is out for the season. Like he's not coming back. And we're talking about Kadarius Toney still hurt, and Wan'Dale Robinson is still hurt. So the number 1 receiver is going to be David Sills, Richie James, and their tight end Bellinger. I could not tell you his first name, honestly. So
I understand that, but he's at 5,400. So
no, that's what I'm saying. You're relying a lot on his legs and his dump off ability.
Yeah.
But my thing is, I just don't think the touchdown upside is there, just because I think they do want to give it to Saquon, and I have a lot of shares of Saquon that demonstrate that. So he's probably not someone that I'll play when I could go down a little bit to someone like Baker against Arizona, who, if he looks human, is super nice stack with DJ Moore, who's I think below 5K now. So I don't know.
No, for me, I would rather go Marcus Mariota than Daniel Jones. Even though he's I'll probably have some Daniel Jones, but more Mariota and more Geno Smith. Because, first of all, Mariota's ceiling, I think, is the highest out of all of those 5K quarterbacks, for sure. He and Derek Carr, I would say, have the 2 highest ceilings. And so if I'm going GPP, I would do probably Mariota. But at 5,400, you're looking for – he gets 15 points, and he has value, and you can just put in a lot of really good plays. And so that's just my thinking on that.
So yeah, I think everyone has the consensus that everyone's going really high end or really cheap this week. So depends on how your lineup shapes up. Let's move on to running backs. And I think, this is a week where there are two guys, and I'm not saying these are my guys. I want to hear if you guys have them. But Khalil Herbert and Jamal Williams coming in for injured running backs. Do you guys have any stock in those guys this week or no?
I don't. I think they're going to be super high owned, and I've just taken the contrarian play, and I'm just going to say, I mean, you look at a guy like the Detroit offense that so relies on the two-back system. Craig Reynolds is going to get in there, and if he happens to be the guy who gets in the end zone just by chance, based on absolutely nothing, that takes a lot away from Jamal Williams' value, and he's still priced at 6.1. So you're giving up some other good options and a lot of your budget for a guy who is still, I'm not 100% sure that he's that DeAndre Swift type player where he's such a screaming value at 6K.
Yeah, I'm not going to put in, like, I just can't find myself putting in Jamal Williams because he's going to be probably like 20 to 25% owned, which is crazy. And I think for him, yeah, he's 6,100. He's probably going to do well. He's probably going to project pretty well once it comes, Saturday. And I think that it's just hard for me to put in a guy like Jamal Williams, a backup running back. Like you said, we kind of know his role, but we don't really know his role. If Swift had been out for the past couple weeks and Jamal Williams had been the workhorse, and you're like, oh, we know he's getting 20-plus touches, he's getting red zone carries, all right, I can see myself playing him. But when he's getting into the 20-25% owned and it's Jamal Williams, I just can't see myself doing it. I'm probably not going to go. I don't know is Montgomery 100% out or is I don't think he is.
No,
Montgomery is questionable right now.
Yeah, he's questionable. Yeah. So for me, I'm just not going to go Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not taking any stock in those guys. What do you guys have for your running backs if you guys aren't going with them?
Well, for me, I like quarterback. I'm going like super, super high or bottom of the barrel, like almost 5K. And if I'm going high, it's likely Jonathan Taylor and Saquon, because I think obviously Barkley, we've seen it this year. Taylor has a good matchup against Tennessee.
Even with Taylor questionable, would you go Hines if he's out?
He's not going to be out. He's got some toe injury or something. In my opinion, and maybe I'll look like a fool if they rule him out, but I don't think they're taking their best player off the field. You saw what they couldn't do without Michael Pittman. So I think he's going to play, and I still think he's going to get 20-plus carries. I think that's basically a lock with Jonathan Taylor, and that's really exciting, especially when he's now priced down to 8.8K from whatever he was at, the high nines. So I think if you're going to go big, you want to go Barkley, who we've seen, and we just talked about it. He's going to be everything in their passing game, in their running game, and you're playing the Chicago defense. So it's not like you're up against this really hard battle defense. And then looking down, there's a couple of guys that I really like. I think Damian Harris with Brian Hoyer potentially at quarterback. I think he is 100% at quarterback, actually. And a bad Packers run defense at 5.3. He's got a really good shot to get a touchdown. And in that cheap price, that's all you need. He's been getting consistently 1 or 2 catches a game. So if you see him get 2 catches, or maybe Hoyer even bumps that up to 3 or 4, he's a really solid play. Along with Breece Hall, 5.4, still priced really well. I know Flacco isn't in, but you're playing the upside that the Jets offense will look pretty good with Zach Wilson, and maybe he gets in for a rushing touchdown or 2. The price is not high enough where it needs to be a really big boom 40-point potential game. You're just looking for 4 catches, maybe a touchdown, and like 50 yards.
Yeah, Jake, you read my mind with running back. I have Saquon and I have Damian Harris as my running backs. And it's for the exact same reasons. Both teams are down with injuries. They have a ton of injuries across the board. They're going to get a lot of volume this game Brian Hoyer. I will say the one risk of Damian Harris is the Patriots could be down a lot. But again, it's probably going to be Brian Hoyer at quarterback. We know he's not that great of a quarterback. So it could be a lot of checkdowns to him. You're kind of relying on that. But for 5,300, I think that's a reasonable price. Saquon, on the other hand, with so many injuries to the Giants receiving core, I think he's going to get a lot of the workload. And I think that's going to be a big boom clip play right there going against Chicago.
Yeah, I agree with the Saquon part. I think another guy is Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's at 55.
Oh, your classic Josh Jacobs pick of the week.
I know,
You
but it's
love
just
Josh Jacobs. I know.
It's not that I like him as a player. I mean, I think he's a fine player, but it's more just you're gonna get a guy 5,500 who's gonna get you 15 to 20, hopefully 15 to 20 touches a game. I would say probably he got 6 targets last game, 13 attempts. The touchdowns will come at some point. He's gonna have that stupid fall into the end zone 3 times Josh Jacobs week. And I want to have him on my lineup, especially at 5,500. And I honestly think he's going to be pretty darn high owned. But another guy that I'm looking at, Saquon, obviously, is a guy that I like. I mean, I'm with both of you guys on that one. He's just stupid good. But Christian McCaffrey at 8,700. I mean, how often are we really going to see McCaffrey at 8,700? I think a lot. I think for the rest of the year, if he has a big week this week, because he definitely could. He had like 25 rushing attempts last week. He's going to be in like at least 89 to 9Ks. And I think once you see a guy like Christian McCaffrey, 8,700, it's hard for me to completely fade him. And if I'm going to pay up, I'd rather go McCaffrey than I would Jonathan Taylor. And then the 2 high price guys are McCaffrey and Saquon. Not much into Nick Chubb, and Austin Eckler is just it's gross for me to look at Austin Eckler. But I also think Najee Harris going against the Jets, 6,700. I think that could be a game where he's just such a good running back, and I understand that the offense isn't very great, but he's still getting the workload, and he's still getting some targets. So I think people will be under-owned on Najee and not really looking at him as much as they should be. And so that's really where I'm going to go. And, I mean, the thing with Jamal Williams is he's probably a pretty darn good play. I just don't see myself wanting to go Jamal Williams, like I said.
I agree with you.
Right below him, right, you could go Ezekiel Elliott, which is gross and kind of not what you want to do. But if everyone's on Jamal Williams and Jamal Williams busts and Zeke gets in the end zone a couple times at sub 5% ownership, like that's something that's extremely helpful and something that, is that I think about, like, what if someone's really high owned, who's the running back next to him? Same thing, James Conner going against Carolina, smash matchup, right? You go up 100. Okay, you got a guy like James Robinson going against a solid Philadelphia defense. In theory, like, if you're just going straight up value, that's not a great pick. But if you think about it, okay, Robinson's a good running back. Philly is good, but he could still easily get touchdowns. Like, that's something that could happen. And so for me, the ones that I'm going that are just in smash spots, I like McCaffrey, I like Saquon, I like Najee, and I also like getting away from Jamal Williams and going to Ezekiel Elliott, and getting away from James Conner and going to James Robinson.
Yeah, 100%. I think definitely. I think I'm with you on that. I think getting away from those guys and going with other guys it's going to work out. And I think how the pricing works, it's similar to quarterback. You either go top heavy or you go down below. There's not many middle guys this week, and I think that's something you're going to see throughout the week. Let's go wide receiver right now because I'm having the same issue here. There's definitely, I mean, I think there are some more middle guys, but I think you go a bit. I want to hear some of your guys' low guys for the week because there's a lot, in my opinion, if you have any.
Julian, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I have a low guy, and he's kind of not someone that you really want to go with. And I remember, he was on the Niners. He was all right. Richie James Jr. at 4K. I think if I like Daniel Jones, you got Sterling Shepard out for the year. Richie James looked actually pretty darn good. I know it's one game, the sample size is low and all of that. But if I'm gonna go, I wouldn't play Richie James as a one-off. Like, I don't think The only time I'd play him probably is in a stack, maybe not. If I'm going a high price quarterback, like I'm going to Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen stack, I could put him in there. He's 4K. But I think that for me, when you're getting a guy at 4K and he's going to get probably 5 to 6 targets with upside, it's hard for me to fade that. Like, that's such a screaming value. So for me, that's one of the guys that I'm going with. And Deontay Johnson, the touchdowns are going to come at some point. I understand the offense is bad, but he's getting double-digit targets every single week. 11 targets, 10 targets, 12 targets throughout the entire year. And I think really you just want volume as a wide receiver. Offense matters, obviously, but it's really just volume. And he's also a really good wide receiver going against a Jets defense that really isn't that good. And so there a lot of people, you might go up early on the Jets. They're probably not because Pittsburgh's not that good. So I think they're going to be passing the ball enough for him. And at some point, he's going to get into the end zone and he's going to put up that 20-plus game with that 100-yard bonus or whatever. So Deontay. Brandon Cooks, I think, is in a good spot. I just don't like playing Brandon Cooks when I think he's going to be, 15% owned, 20% owned. I just, that's not something that I want to do. And CeeDee Lamb, I think, going against Washington is a really good play. And I think he has a lot of upside. I mean, you saw how good he is. Cooper Rush likes him a lot. Dak, I don't think he's going to be back, but Rush is a very serviceable backup. And CeeDee Lamb is far and away that wide receiver one. There's really no one else coming in to take his spot. Dalton Schultz, I don't know. He might be out. He might be in. I'm not sure. And I think they are going to be passing the ball. I think Wentz, that offense isn't great, but it can be pretty good. I think the Dallas defense is really good. But I still think CeeDee Lamb will get his. And if I'm going to pay up, if I'm going to really pay up, I think I'm going Stephon Diggs. Even though he's the highest priced wide receiver, he's really 8,400 for highest priced wide receiver isn't massive. And so for me, I'm going Diggs, and I'm going the two highest really Diggs and Devontae Adams. The one thing that worries about me with Devontae Adams is just his usage is down the past 2 weeks. Now it's the past 2 weeks, so who knows? But that's just kind of worrisome. And so I'd probably just prefer to go Diggs with Josh Allen and then fit in value around the other positions like defense, tight end, running back, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on the Richie James thing. I had him in my lineup. There are two guys at 4K that I actually like for this week. Richie James being one of them. The other guy is Donovan Peoples-Jones of the Cleveland Browns. 4K. He gets the most snaps out of any wide receiver. Now, the targets are the issue, but if you need a low budget, which I do because I have some very high-priced guys on my squad, and yeah, honestly, the majority of my lineup is more low-priced guys because I'm really counting on Diggs, Saquon, and Josh Allen. I think those guys can be 3 massive hits this week. I think if you need a cheap option, Donovan Peoples-Jones going up against a Falcons secondary, which isn't that good. They'll have Terrell and Amari Cooper. So that, yeah, they might be targeting Peoples-Jones. AJ Terrell is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. They're going to need someone else to target. He could be that guy. So I'm going to have him at 4K, Richie James at 4K as well. And then I'm going 2 high guys. Diggs, I have a Diggs Allen stack. And yeah, Julian, you keep taking my guys. You have you guys keep taking my guys. Deontay Johnson. I mean, he's been targeted a lot. I know he hasn't walked into the end zone, but going up against a Jets defense that they're still improving, but they're going to throw to Deontay a lot. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it could be somewhat more of a closer game. Now you got Zach Wilson back. I like that. That could be a little bit more offensive power than we think it's going to be. So those are my 4 receivers for this week. Again, I'm going really high with this Diggs Allen stack. If that doesn't hit, this team is kind of done, but I think that should absolutely hit this week.
Yeah, I found myself just with how this slate looks, going big stacks with whatever quarterback and whatever game I pick in that specific lineup. So for my main lineup, I already said I'm going Judy Sutton with Russ and then running it back with DA. And that is like, I am fully counting on that being a blowout, or not a blowout, but like a big scoring game. And I'm comfortable with that, for especially for a Millie Maker lineup where you are relying on the biggest outcome or the craziest outcome. Outside of that, I said I do like Deontay Johnson. I like Elijah Moore at 4.8. I think people are going to fade him just because he hasn't been doing as much as Garrett Wilson, but you don't know what Zach Wilson really likes or what that offense is going to look like as much with him at quarterback. So I think he's a really solid play for a guy who was pretty freaking good last year. And at that cheap, you could see a pretty solid upside of 20, 25 points. Along with that, looking cheaper, I think we talked about if Amon-Ra is out, DJ Chark at 5K would be the number one receiver there. So he could be a solid play, again, only if he's out. And then Zay Jones at 4.2. I think he had something like 10 targets last week. The Jacksonville offense is always going to be throwing. They're playing Philly this week, so they're going to be down. And if Christian Kirk can draw Slay, I think you could see Zay Jones be the favorite target once again. And then outside of that, I think Amari Cooper at 6.3.
Your boy Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I hate Amari Cooper, but Jacoby Brissett loves him. And it's pretty obvious on most plays that he is just staring him down because he is the only receiver who can get open. And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is a bit of a risk for me, maybe as a flyer. I just don't think he's ever going to fit in one of my lineups, especially when Cooper is the target hog that he is. And that Cleveland offense is so run heavy. But yeah, a lot of consistent with the quarterbacks, like with Zach Wilson. I went Conklin and Elijah, Josh Allen, I think Davis and McKenzie. I didn't find a lot of Diggs in my lineup just because Diggs and Allen is such an expensive stack that even if they do hit, the rest of your lineup, you really have to get gritty with. And then DJ Moore, 5.3, Robbie Anderson, 4.7. It's a bad Arizona defense. Like, I'm fine with taking a flyer on some talent there and praying that Baker Mayfield can throw to them more than 6 times or whatever. DJ Moore's got every game.
Yeah, DJ Moore was one of the guys that I was gonna say. He was one of the guys that I was looking at for sure.
Yeah, it's a really good price for DJ Moore this week. I feel like this can compared to last week, there's a lot more sleepers on this. Zay Jones at 4,200 is one of the best plays of the week, in my opinion. I don't have him on my roster for budget reasons. I'm going pretty high at other positions, so I think I can I have a little bit of faith in Peoples-Jones, see what can happen there against an Atlanta D. And that game, I think, will also be a bit more high scoring than the Philly-Jacksonville game. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, I think there's a lot of options at receiver, as always. Yeah. But this week, I feel like you can really pick and choose a lot of guys. But
I mean, even if you don't want to stack them, Sutton and Judy. I mean, the Raiders secondary is shredded right now. I think Javon Morig's still going to be out. I think Nate Hobbs is going to be out, and I think Anthony Averett's going to be out. So you're missing everyone. I think Rocky Steen's going to be out too. So it's basically going to be all backups, and I think it's a get right game for one of them. And if Sutton can get into the end zone at 6.4, that's really solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to tight end. Jake, you mentioned Conklin. That's my tight end this week. He's been getting targeted a lot in this Jets offense, and I wanted to have some Jets stock this week, and Conklin's the cheapest. He's one of the more targeted guys, so I'm going to use him this week. I'm going to go a bit low at tight end. I know that kind of breaks our trend of going high at tight end, but this week, I think for Tyler Conklin, 3,600, I think that's a fantastic price.
Yeah,
what do you guys think of that?
I think Conklin, I mean, there are a lot of I think there are actually a good amount of good tight end plays. And Conklin, I wasn't really looking at him that much. I think he's a fine play. He's getting volume. And as a tight end, you just want volume. Really, I don't really care. The offense matters. But if you're getting double-digit targets, like that's crazy for a tight end, unless you're one of the elite tight ends like Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, which really are the only two right now. And I think that for me, I also like Pat Fryermuth at 4.2K and TJ Hawkinson at 4.1K. I think those are two guys that they're really good. First of all, they're good. And I think Hawkinson, it's gonna happen at some point, and I think it could definitely happen versus Seattle. I really like this game in general, and I understand, it's hard. It's like only 4 targets, right? But he got 75, or he got a touchdown, 18 receiving yards, and I think for him at 41K, you're looking for a lot of touchdown upside, and he really does. And so I think, DeAndre Swift out could actually help him because Swift gets a lot of the targets and it's going to go somewhere. And also, if you go up a little bit, I really like a 5K wide receiver, Kyle Pitts. I think for him, it's 1 week that he did well, so I know it's really hard to tell. But I still think Kyle Pitts, he had 8 targets last week, 87 receiving yards. He's so good. So those are the 3 guys. And I was going to say Conklin, but yeah.
God, I feel like once Arthur Smith gets fired from Atlanta, Kyle Pitts is going to have a breakout year. It really annoys me. But Jake, what's your tight end for this week?
Julian already said it. Hawkinson. I've talked about this Lions offense a lot today. I think if Swift and Amon-Ra are out, that intermediate part of the field is going to be wide open, and Hawkinson still does have a rapport with Goff. So I think that's a really solid play at 4.1. If you're looking down, which is what I tend to be doing, Dawson Knox at 3.8, still no touchdowns this year. You're kind of betting on that game being super. I think it's the highest total of the week. So you would be betting on that game being super high scoring, and I'm kind of comfortable with that. So if Dawson Knox we saw multiple games last year where he ended up with 2 touchdowns on 4 catches. And that's really what you're relying on, especially with his sub 4K player. And with that upside, I think that's a really great play. And then I'll say it again. I said it last week, and I know it didn't hit. Logan Thomas at 3.3. The Washington offense was so bad last week. I think they got in up until the last few drives, I think they had like what you could count on one hand the number of first downs they had. So I really like him at 3.3. He's a big body. He's gotten a red zone reception in each week. Last week he got tackled at the 1, unfortunately for my lineups. But he's just about the only guy that I can get that cheap and still be comfortable with his potential. I think this week he does have a solid 6-8 point floor, but also be comfortable with a potential 20-point upside like Knox, where if he does get those 2 touchdowns, if the Washington offense gets going against, the Dallas defense is pretty good, and Washington hasn't been able to handle the pass rush very well. But I just kind of got to throw out game script when you're talking about a 3.3K guy and just shoot your shot.
Absolutely. So solid tight ends this week. Defense, we have this theme of going cheap. Are you guys going cheap again? Because I'm going Patriots D this week. Lowest defense.
I just go with what fits, really. For me, I think the upside in defense is touchdowns and interceptions, not hold this team to 6 or 7 points, kind of. Because if you are, you're probably the other team's going to rerun. Your team, your defense, is probably going to be running the ball a lot and slow the clock. And so, yeah, you want them to be down because they're going to pass the ball a lot, and then fumbles, interceptions, stuff like that start to happen. But defense is such a crapshoot. And so for me, honestly, every single week I go, okay, what fits? Does a mid to high price fit? Okay, then I'm going to put that in if I'm happy with the rest of my lineup. Or do I need to go low and one of the lowest or the lowest, like the Jaguars or the Patriots? Yeah, sure, I'm okay with that. And so, I don't know, you said Patriots defense. Yeah, I'm fine with that. And the Giants defense going against Chicago is good defense. Go against Panthers defense at 2.9, I guess is fine. But really for defense, I don't put much stock in it.
Yeah, we talked extensively about this. I agree with Julian. I don't really care. I think the ones I had written down, Patriots 2.3. If you wanna go there, I just think that the Packers offense has not shown that it can be high powered. So if you happen to scoop one, you're not gonna get 0. Broncos defense 2.7 against the Raiders. The Raiders turn the ball over a lot, and they sacked a lot with a bad offensive line. So regardless of if they put up 20 something points, like I think they will, I think the defense could have a solid game. I wrote down the Giants at 3.1. Julian just mentioned them. And then the last one, which I'm actually using more and more, is the Seahawks at 2.4. I think
Interesting.
Goff could get sacked a few times more than we're used to, just because I know they do have a good offensive line, but no Swift, no Amon-Ra. He could be holding the ball, getting through his reads a little bit more, and maybe a pick, maybe a couple sacks, and that's all you're looking for, especially with a defense that's at 2.4. So those are what I'm going with.
So I never really thought of that, actually. That's a good point right there. But yeah, so it is now that time where we make a consensus lineup. Yay. Okay, so quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, flex, defense. Let me share my screen and let's debate, fellas. If I can pull this up. Share. There we go. Perfect. All right, let's move to quarterback. Is there a guy that anyone wants to pitch for their starter for this week? I think Allen is the safest bet. We've all talked about him. But again, very high priced.
Yeah, I say we go Allen or we just go really cheap. We can go Allen. We'll have to get a little unique in other spots if we do, because kind of have to pair him with Diggs. So you're getting the highest priced quarterback, highest priced wide receiver. And you can put in Knox in there if you think they're both going to get there. Sure, why not? But for me, I say we go Geno Smith. I know that it's kind of gross to go Geno Smith, but he has a lot of stacking options. For me, I would probably stack him with Tyler Lockett. And then you can bring it back with a guy like DJ Chark or Josh Reynolds. If Amon-Ra is out, I probably wouldn't bring him back with Jamal Williams because I don't really like doing that. And I don't really like Jamal Williams. So I say we go with Geno Smith.
I don't know. That's obviously, it's gross, and that's part of the reason that it's good. But I would rather personally go with like a Zach Wilson against Pittsburgh, where you have that the rushing upside. I mean, you saw him have multiple 20+ point weeks last year. But I do agree that it's kind of tough. You're taking a shot in the dark with his receiving options just because you don't know his tendencies in this offense. But I think they put a lot of weapons this year to make Joe Flacco look like a good quarterback. So that's what I like.
Yeah,
but I'm okay going. I know you mentioned.
Start. You really want to play Zach Wilson on his first start, coming back off an injury?
For 5,200, I'd do that.
I mean, I was gonna say, and then the other one, I'm okay with going if you wanted to go Mariota. Geno Smith is.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Geno Smith guy. I would much rather prefer Marcus Mariota.
Okay, let's go Mariota.
All right, if I can find him. Oh, here he is. 5,600. Marcus Mariota at quarterback. Running back. We all talked about Saquon. Do we want to throw him in there?
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. We went cheap quarterback.
We did go cheap quarterback. So let's throw in Saquon. Other running back. What are you guys thinking for this? I do like Damian Harris. I think I kind of want to pitch for him a little bit. I think you can get, if you go Damian Harris, you can get some high-end receivers as well. You're not going to be able to stack with Mariota, but I think Damian Harris, he's going to get a lot of leverage volume in this game, I should say. And I think he's going to do pretty well this week. I would pitch for Damian Harris to be our RB2.
I think I kind of like Jacobs here, just because we went with Saquon. We went super, I guess, safe with RB1, and he is still pretty cheap. And he's just Damian. I don't know in terms of Ramondre Stevenson how that's going to go. And I do have a bit of Damian Harris, and I talked about that. But I also had Jacobs written down. I just knew Julian was going to talk about him. I do like that upside because, as I've said with everything that I've my lineup consensus, I really like that game, and I think it's going to be high scoring, and I think Jacobs could hop in for a couple. And you saw him get 4 or 5 catches last week without Renfro, hogging up the middle of the field, and he's going to be out again. So I kind of like that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I
Julian,
said
are
we go
you?
Josh Jacobs for sure.
All right, let's do that then. Josh Jacobs as RB2. Wide receiver. I think we should go with a high-end guy. I think Diggs is probably going to be that guy for me. Just go big at receiver, man. I think that's all I got to say with Stephon Diggs. Deontay Johnson, we talked about him a lot. I think we can add him. I think we can put those two in and then maybe talk about a sleeper if you guys are okay with that. Or is there another guy you want to pitch for?
Well, thinking game stack wise, just if you do think that Cleveland Atlanta game is going to be what the Atlanta Seattle game was last week, I think it would be nice to have like Drake London, an Amari.
Or would you go
Cooper.
Kyle Pitts instead?
Yeah, it depends how much stock are we putting into the Marcus Mariota running game. Because if we think it's going to come with his legs, then let's just go one receiving option and then run it back with one option. But I mean, I'm okay with going London and Pitts because I think they could both
How much
be good.
Pitts? Pitts is 5K. I think I'd rather go Pitts and try to get someone else some more at receiver.
I mean, you could go both. I mean, I
wouldn't go both. I would pick one.
But I would probably just go with the wide receiver, honestly.
All right. So you guys want London?
I think let's go London. And how do you guys feel about? I mean, I think Cooper's a solid play this week.
I think Amari Cooper is a very solid play this week. I mean, I had Peoples-Jones, but if I had the money, I would go Amari Cooper. So is everyone okay with that?
Amari Cooper, sure.
Perfect. So that's 2, 3, and 4. Do we go big or do we have to? I think we might have to include a cheaper option in here. Our average salary is only $4,600. I have not included defense or tight end yet, so we'll see.
Well, why don't at tight end do we want to go? I mean, the guy that I think both me and Julian really liked, Hawkinson. So if we go Hawkinson at 41, I think we should have plenty of salary.
Yeah, 4,800. And if I put a defense in, we talked about. I mean, what defense? Seahawks, Titans.
I don't care.
Patriots. Okay, we'll go Pats. Just keep it cheap. So yeah, we have $6,000 in average salary. So you could go Diggs in a cheap option. You could go Deontay Johnson and Tyler Lockett, or Brandon Cooks. I know some of you guys talked about those guys.
I think that we should go.
You actually can't add Diggs.
I think we should go Michael Pittman because AJ Brown, he's going to be super chalky, and right below him, nobody's going to really be on, or not nobody, but there aren't going to be many people on Pittman. So I say we go Pittman.
I like Pittman. Does that give us enough for Jerry Jeudy or no?
Let's see. It does not. But I was also thinking, you talked about Zay Jones at 4,200. I think you can add him in if you like a deep sleeper.
I like Zay Jones, but if I can get up to Elijah Moore at 48, I like.
Elijah Moore's 48. Yeah, I'd much rather take Elijah Moore.
If you guys don't, Julian, if you don't like doing the Jets,
no, I'm fine. Elijah Moore, that's fine.
Yeah, Elijah Moore, and then we have an extra $100. I think bumping it up to Seahawks defense would actually be a solid idea at 2,400.
I like the Seahawks.
Yeah, let's do that. So, consensus lineup for this week: Marcus Mariota, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Drake London, Amari Cooper, Michael Pittman, TJ Hawkinson, Elijah Moore in the Seahawks defense, using up all the money. Overall, I think a lot of the guys on this lineup I definitely did not really talk about besides Saquon and a little bit of Amari Cooper, a little bit of Elijah Moore. But other than that, I think it's a solid lineup. I think a lot of those guys are going to be very low owned, which I like. So it should be good.
Yeah, I like it. I'm excited for this week. I think
Me too.
Last week I came in and I was struggling to put together one single lineup I was really comfortable with. This week I had 4 full ones with great stacks that I feel really good about. So that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
me too. Before we end the episode, everyone go through their personal lineup one more time. I know we talked about a lot of players, but everyone give me one personal lineup. Julian, I'll start with you. What you got for this week?
So for me, I don't have like all the pieces together, but I have the core. So I'm gonna go with my man Geno Smith. I know it's kind of gross to go Geno Smith, but I'm gonna go with him, and I'm gonna pair Geno Smith not with DK Metcalf. I think Lockett is the better play here. And then I'm going to bring it back with Jerry Jeudy. or not bring it back. I'm gonna bring it back with if Amon-Ra is out, I think I either go Josh Reynolds or DJ Chark. I'm still trying to figure out which one do I do, which one really fits. And then for me, I think I'm going Jerry Jeudy, and then I'm doing Josh Jacobs. I know I'm gonna do that. And at tight end, I think I'm gonna go Pat Fryermuth, but I think I can pay up and get Kyle Pitts, and I think that's something that could fit. And I think he's one of the best tight ends out there. I'm definitely not going to go Mark Andrews because I don't think Mark Andrews. If I'm going to do that, I want to pair him with Lamar Jackson. So then I'm going to go Kyle Pitts as my tight end. I'm still trying to figure out the rest of my lineup. That's basically the core of my lineup.
Solid. Jake, what do you have this week? I know you have a lot, but give us your favorite one.
My favorite lineup is the Denver Vegas stack. I got Russell Wilson with Saquon at running back. I'm trying to find a way to get Josh Jacobs in there because I do think if that game goes high, he's going to be a big part of that. And then at receiver, Adams, Judy, Sutton. I'm going all in on that. Tight end, I got TJ Hawkinson. And then because I went so big with Adams and Barkley, I only had enough for Logan Thomas at tight end, 3,300. And then the Patriots.
Which we didn't really talk about that much. That was another pick I liked, Logan Thomas at 3,300.
So that's my consensus lineup for this week.
There you go. Well, that's your lineup, not the consensus, but
the consensus.
Whatever. It's the same thing. Anyways, my lineup is it's similar to some of those guys you guys talked about. Josh Allen, I'm going the Allen Diggs stack right there, banking on that. Saquon, I think is going to have a phenomenal week. Damian Harris, we talked about. Richie James, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Conklin, Donovan Peoples-Jones at 4K. I think that could be a sleeper this week. Really a hit or miss, but 4K, you're not really risking much in the Patriots defense. Guys, I'm looking forward to week 4 of this NFL season. Should be a fun week for DFS. Guess we'll have to see how we do.
Yeah. And remember, guys, there are many things a man can do at this time, and this is better than those things. Thanks.
See you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.